Hi, I'm Lucy Monroe. Welcome to my Craft of Writing workshop. Today we're going to talk about productivity. So, two questions I get from a lot of aspiring authors are, how do I find time to write? And how do I write faster? So let's talk about finding time to write first. First thing is easy, fast answer, truth. I've been telling it to aspiring authors, other friends, people that I mentor for years now. Decades actually, and that is, you don't find time to write, you make time to write. Being a creative person, you have to decide what is the most important thing in your life, and if following that creative dream is that thing, or not if the most important up at the top, then you prioritize your life to make sure that happens. If you can only find 15 minutes a day to write, you can make that work for you, but you must be consistent and not allow anything else to impinge on those 15 minutes a day. If it's an hour, same thing, whatever. If it's a 4-hour block once a week, whatever it is, you need to make it a priority, and only the direst of emergencies should make you impinge on that time. Only you know what choices you need to make in order to make time for writing in your life. But I highly recommend that you do make a structured time, or choose a time, or you set a goal, whatever, but you say, this time every day is my writing time. I usually get up at 6:30. I'm going to get up at 6:15 and write for 15 minutes a day. Or I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock and write for half an hour a day. That doesn't mean you let your significant other talk you into taking a chore on during that half an hour, or you allow your trainer to talk you into working out that half an hour. Anything could be good for you. It's the choices that you're making for your creativity. So you choose to make time to write. Now let's talk about the how do I write faster. I don't like that question, and the reason I don't is because it doesn't really give, I think, the full respect that our personal creative process deserves. Your creative process is your own. The speed with which you write is your own. It's your pace. Trying to increase your pace for a myriad of different reasons, whether it's to increase your success as an author, to increase the amount of money that you make, to impress family or friends, whatever your reasons are, they could be very valid, but that doesn't make them any easier to achieve if your process is a certain thing. I will tell you this, I believe very strongly that if you can be consistently productive, you do not need to worry so much about being faster. Being faster oftentimes actually works against us, because we end up doing what? Burnout. Mini burnout. I'm just too tired to write today. I wrote too much yesterday. Whatever the reason. Let's just talk about your car. Your car probably taps out at somewhere between 120 to 180 miles an hour. Most domestic or even foreign cars that are not sports models do. But let's say you get into your car, and every time you drive, you insist on driving at that topped out speed, 120, 180, whatever it is. How long would it be before the engine burns out? Well, some cars will last longer than others, there's no doubt about it. But eventually, all those engines will burn out. If you try to run your creative brain at the top end of your productive capability every single time you write, you will burn out as well. So you need to manage that productive capability. Being creative needs time to think. You don't just need time to write. So there needs to be time in that schedule that you're giving yourself, of whatever goals you set for yourself, for you to think, to revise, and then, yes, to write. Let's talk about goals. Goals are something I love. I have spent years, decades, setting goals and achieving them. But since I published, and for about, probably 12 to 13 years after I published, I set top-end goals every year, every single month, almost every single week. I always gave myself weeks off, like I would take 6 weeks a year split out that weren't writing weeks. And I think that kept me sane for a long time. But the reality was, the weeks that I had set for me to write, I had set these really top end goals. I was capable of writing 5,000 words a day, but not without losing my creative juice. And I think that what I have to look back now is recognize that I signed too many contracts, I set too many high-end goals for myself, and I did end up burning out. There were health complications involved as well, but the reality is I am in control of my writing creativity, and only I can say yes to a contract, and only I can say no. And it isn't easy either way, because the pressure is immense to always say yes. Well, aren't you lucky to have contracts? Editors, well, you'll only be a successful author if we can get this many books out a year. We really need you to do this. We really are counting on you. No one's being mean. No one's even lying to you. But whether or not those things are true does not alter the fact that you have a creative pace that if you try to continuously overshoot, you will eventually burn your brain out, and then you will have no creative pace. And I experienced that for 3 years, so let's not go there. It's not fun. So what I do is I set a daily goal for my writing. Now for you, it may work to set a word count goal, or it may work better to set a time goal. Maybe you can only write 15 minutes a day, as we talked about before. Maybe you can write an hour a day or 2 hours a day. Maybe you really just want to set a word count goal and you want to write 1,000 words a day, 500 words a day, 2,000 words a day. I don't really want to put numbers out there because it makes me nervous to think that you're going to think you have to write that many words a day. I will tell you this. The most successful and prolific author I know is Nora Roberts. And I once heard her say that she writes 7 pages a day every day. Now that's not that much. That's a really doable goal. That shows incredible intelligence, and it also shows that she's super consistent with her creative productivity. She writes 7 pages a day every day. Okay, that's awesome. Because you know what? You may find that, I wrote 25 pages yesterday, and then today you struggle to eke out 2. And if that's happening to you, maybe you need to sit back and ask yourself why you write the 25 pages in a day. Because what if you were writing 5 pages a day, or you were writing 1,000 words a day, or 2,000 words a day? What if you could do that every day without stressing yourself out and burning out? Pretty awesome, right? And that is your creative process. You need to find out what your pace is, what your process is, and accept it, embrace it, and write the best books you can write. Maybe you write in bursts. Maybe you write 25 pages a day. Well, not a day, in a sitting. And that's wonderful. And that's how your creative process works. And all I would say to that is that's great. But then give yourself the time for your brain to sort of reset and rest between those bouts. So when you set your goals, it's not, I'm going to write 25 pages every day this week. It's, I'm going to write this many days and this many pages. Because maybe at writing 25 pages a day, 2 days of writing is what your brain wants to do, or 3 or 4. I don't know. You could be that writer that wants and does love to write that many. Just make sure that you're setting your goals based on what is reasonable, not what requires you to say, no, I can't talk to the kids. No, I can't answer that question. No, I can't answer my email. I have to shut everything else out. If you have to shut everything else out to hit your goals, once in a while on a deadline, that has to happen. But for the most part, really try to avoid that. So maybe not be looking at the focus of, well, I have to write this number of books in order to make money. Now, I know some people they feel like they have no choice. Some people are breadwinners. They have to write a certain number of books in a year. They have to fulfill certain contracts. I get it. I totally get it. You don't have a second job. This is what you do. I am a full-time writer. I understand needing the money. I understand making the choices. I did it. I signed a ton of contracts that, looking back, I wish I'd given myself a break. Lori Foster gave me some really good advice when I first sold, and she told me, you will not be able to write as much after you sell as you could write before. And I believed her, but I didn't understand to what extent that was true. And I'll just tell you, go an extra step and say, if you write 3 to 5 books a year, Before you publish, you may find that you can only write 2 to 3 books a year after you publish. If you write 1 book a year before you published, then you need to consider that you may end up on a schedule of like every year and a half putting out a book. If you write 2 books a year, you may slide back to 1 book a year, because you know all that writing time for that other book and all the thought time, because there's so much thought time and creativity, that gets eaten up by the business side of writing, by revisions, by going over copy edits, by going over the cover, by going over cover copy, by creating the next book that's going to, your synopses for your upcoming books. There is so much that is part of it. And then there's promotion. And whether you publish with New York, as I did, or you do self-publishing, as I have done, or a small press, which I have also done, all of it requires a great deal of self-promotion. Now, I'm doing a lot less self-promotion right now, and I've done the trade-off. I recognize I will not make as much money. And I accept that because I want to write and I want to enjoy writing. That doesn't mean I do no self-promotion. It just means that I've really curtailed it. But I did a lot to begin with, and I think most of you are going to have to do a lot to build your careers. And so when you take that time into consideration, that's a book. That's a book a year you can't do, because all that time is being used for something else. So when you're talking about being productive, there are lots of things out there that can help you be productive. There's the writing sprints. There's timed writing on, personal thing, having a set time every day. There is having a buddy who keeps you accountable to your goals. There's a lot of things you can do that can help you to be productive. But my advice is find your writing pace and stick to it. And if it is 5 pages a day, write 5 pages a day. If it is 1 page a day, do you know still at the end of a year, you still have 365 pages, which is a short novel. So, well, it's actually a single title novel in a lot of the new word count requirements. So I'm just saying, relax a little bit and give your brain time to think. And being productive means being consistent. And that's what you really need to work on. Now, I recognize that each of you are going to have maybe questions about this. I'm very happy to answer them. You can put them in the comments. You can email me off of my website. You can get a hold of me via Facebook or the Lucy Monroe page on Facebook, Lucy Monroe on Twitter, any of that. I'm very happy to answer questions, but I just want to remind each of us that writing is our gift. It is what we love to do. It is our dream to be writers, have a career as a writer, to have published novels. And in order to do that, we need to manage that gift and we need to protect it. And part of protecting it is not trying to write like everyone else. And it is not trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? In trying to produce as many books in a year as, say, this other author over here does. It's all, and it's not trying to glom onto everything and just do all the things at once. Let's be consistent. Let's be consistent like the queen of the biz, right? Let's write what we write, the same amount, pretty much every day. Now, some days you're going to have amazing creative spurts and you're going to write extra. Instead of taking that as an indication that you can write that way all the time, accept it for the gift it is and go back to your consistent production the next day. I do take weekends off, and because I am a published author and I have a lot of other responsibilities besides writing for my writing career, I recognize that one day a week I probably won't get any writing done. So I generally write about 4 days a week, and I do have a set word count for each of those days. But even with that word count, my weekly goal for the week is not equal to what my daily goal is times 4. And the reason for that is that we have to be able to delete. And if you set goals that are too high, you'll keep crappy writing just to keep your goal. Let's not do that. Give yourself a goal that gives you the opportunity for deletion and having a net goal that is achievable and gives you the freedom to write and also to junk what isn't working. Okay, so I hope that answered any of your questions about how to make time to write and about productivity from my perspective. I won't pretend it's from anyone else's. Thanks, and have a wonderful week writing.